Hello, David Clarke here from DVC Training, and in this video I'm going to be looking at something that's not very sexy but is very important, and that is keeping your files backed up. I've been prompted to do this by a few customers recently where hard drives have either died or somebody's accidentally formatted it or something, and the first question you say was, have you got a backup somewhere? And I'm not entirely sure. I've probably got some of it. Backup's the sort of thing you don't think about until you need it, and then you think, bloomin' it, why didn't I do that? Now, there's loads of ways of doing it. I'll talk a little bit about RAIDs towards the end, but really I'm just wanting to focus on this free program, which I use all the time, called FreeFileSync. This is a way of keeping files in two directories or even two whole hard drives synchronized. So I should be talking about how to use that and then a little bit about RAID and other options at the end. To get FreeFileSync, very simple. Go onto the internet, type in FreeFileSync in Google. It'll find the website, go to the download page and download the version that you want. I've used the Windows and the Linux one. I've used this to synchronize drives between two Windows computers. So in this case, I'm going to go between a Windows 10 and a Windows 11 computer. You can do it between two hard drives, two folders on the same machine, whatever. And I've also used it to actually synchronize folders between a Linux machine and a Windows machine. And it's totally free. If you use it, Guy asks you, can you give me a bit of money to support me? Just donate something, which I think is worth it if you find it useful. You download it, you just run the installer. Again, very simple, click, click, click. And then you end up with two icons on the desktop, the red one and the green one. I use the green one mostly. The red one does live syncing. The green one just does syncing whenever you ask it to. And that's what I tend to do. At the end of the day, I'll just click that and do a backup rather than worrying about it being backed up every 2 seconds. Backing it up at the end of the day is a lot better than not doing it at all. So I run that, and then it comes up with this very simple interface. In here, you stick in where you want to sync from, and here where you want to sync to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sync between this computer and another computer on my network, which is what I do a lot of the time. You could just plug in an external drive and say sync up to that. I've got another computer here. Just to make life easier, I'm running it in Google Remote Desktop, so you can see my other computer here in the same video. And I've set up a folder called Test. And I've shared it, and there's some stuff in there. So this one is the remote machine, which is Windows 11, and this here is Windows 10. And I'm going to go onto the E drive and make up a folder called Test. So I want to set up a sync from my network computer to this computer. So I can click Browse, go to the network, go to that computer, go to the folder and select it. Bosh. For this one, I could do the same thing. I could browse around on this machine, or I could just go to the folder that I want, drag it and drop it in there. So now I've said, okay, take whatever's in there and synchronize it with this. Now to synchronize it, I'm going to click this button. But before I do, I just want to set up a couple of settings. So I'm going to click on that button there and choose the way that I want to synchronize it. Now, most of the time I just choose mirror. This basically means whatever's in one location, make an exact copy of it in the other. Obviously, other ones here, and you can set your own up. I'll go with mirror to start off with. So what that's now going to say is whatever's in there, make sure that the same stuff is in that one. I also like this option down here. So what might happen is there might be something in my E drive that isn't in this folder here. So what's going to happen with that? Is it deleted, or what happens to it? Normally what it happens is it gets deleted, but I like this option, versioning. The two deletion options are it goes to the recycle bin or you permanently delete it. I like this one because what it does is it says, look, if there's anything in this one that isn't in that one, move it somewhere else. A few times I have occasionally synced the wrong way, and because I've been versioning it, because I've actually said, well, move the files somewhere else, I can always get them back. So I really like to have that set up as well, which I should call something like, which in my case happens to be on the E drive, doesn't have to be, could be somewhere else. But now I've done that with mirror, click on synchronize, does a quick analysis, and then it says you've got 14 gig on that side, nothing on this side, start. And then it goes off and it syncs them up. Now these things are coming over a network. It's a gigabit network, so it's pretty fast. If I'm doing this over Wi-Fi, obviously it's slower. But yeah, it's not going to take that long to put 12 gigabytes from one computer to another. If it thinks you don't have enough space, it will warn you. You can start it going anyway, but it won't finish. But really, it can be as simple as that. Now, I've gone from one folder on a remote computer to a folder on this machine. I could have gone from one drive to another drive. So this could have been my D drive. If I just put D in there, and I put an external drive in here, and so the external drive comes up with G, so I have D in there and G in there, it'll copy everything from D to G. Yay, now done. Now, if I go to my other computer, there's my test folder. Let's grab a couple of things and put them in there. To make it quick, I'll add a couple of text files, folder with a bunch of JPEGs in. Come back to this computer, click synchronize, and hang on, it says there's nothing to mirror. That's because it needs to scan it again. You can get it to scan it again by clicking the compare button. But actually, if I'd come out of the program and gone back in again, it would have automatically done it with the synchronize. But anyway, so I've clicked compare. It showed me the new stuff that's in there. Click synchronize, start, and now all that stuff is in that folder. Again, if I go back to here and let me get rid of the JPEGs, do a quick compare again. Oh, now it's saying I've got some JPEGs on this side, which aren't on that side. So synchronize again. And now you can see on this side, the JPEGs have gone from the test folder. And if I go to that deleted sync files folder, that's where they are. So that's how I like to set it up. Basically, source, destination, mirror, stick in a version, and then just click that occasionally to make them sync up. And then whatever's in that one will be mirrored over here. If something's been deleted from here, it gets deleted from there, but it gets shoved into another folder. So if I've ever realized I've deleted the wrong things, I can get them back. I just find that simple and incredibly useful. Now, of course, there's a lot more you can do with this, but that's what I do with it. Other things you can do here is I've got this particular configuration that I like. I can save it. And let's call this computer school 14700K test versus Skylab. So I've called it something that means something to me. You just give it a name, something that makes it useful to you, so that once you come back into the thing, it's there and you can do it again. These are nice little files. They just go straight into your documents folder, and you can load up other ones from here. So you can see I've actually got some other stuff in here, like this episode 6 Skylab. I can just load that one up, and now I've got another one. You can have loads of these. So it's just set up backups between different folders. It is something basically that you just come in here and you click it and then it does it for you. It doesn't do it live. It doesn't do it automatically. And like I said, there are other ways of doing it. So I could set up a two-way sync. So if I click on that, these things over here change to tell you what you're doing. So mirror says, look, on the left only, I copy it across. If it's newer on the left, I copy it across. If the right side is newer, I still copy the one from the left over the top. If it's only on the right, delete it. But you can change it to something else. Two-way, I mean, you can go through and hover over this and it'll explain what it is, but it does mean that if I've got a newer item on the right-hand side here, it might go over the top of the one on the left. Update means if things are newer over here, shove them over there, otherwise leave it as it is. And custom means you can set your own up. But that's the one I use 99% of the time. The other thing I remember is versioning. I am paranoid about losing stuff. The number of times I've copied stuff or backed stuff up and been sure that I'm right, and then a couple of weeks later down the road, I think, oh shoot, I managed to delete the wrong thing because I wasn't thinking straight. So I love the versioning. Does mean I've got lots and lots of files on my hard drives, and I've got lots and lots of hard drives, but I do like the versioning because it saved me on several occasions. And there's also simple things like you can get it to give you a log. You can do this thing on completion, shut the computer down. So, you could actually set it up to completely back up a hard drive at the end of the day and say, when it's finished, on success, shut the computer down. You'd have to type that in because it's a command line thing. Shut down /s/t 60. So once it's finished, you get it to shut the computer down. Again, don't tend to do that, but you could do. Mainly, I just leave it like that. Mirror, versioning, clonk. And you've obviously got things here where you can filter what you're deciding to sync, so you don't have to sync everything. It says here, for example, it's not syncing stupid things like the recycle bin. That would be just a pointless thing to sync. You could say just AVI files, and it would just do the AVI files. Again, don't fiddle with that. I just tend to get it to do everything. There are times when it'll pop up with a message. So for example, here, I'm going to go sync. Now I've chosen a really, really big directory. It says 1.35 terabytes. And as I click start, it says, look, they're really, really different. Are you sure you want to do this? Now I would look at that and say, oops, no, I put the wrong things in because I do not want to set that directory to be synced up to there. Or if it's the first time I do it and there is a lot to move it, yes, I do want to do it. So I ignore it and carry on. Apart from it, that's it. Really pretty simple program. And it's free. say, if you find it useful, give the guy some dosh. Now, having changed this, I want to get back to my original settings. So if I just click somewhere else, it says, well, you've changed something. Do you want to save it? Nope. And now I'm back to the test settings I started with. Sync it again. Nothing to do. Bosh, tells you the last time synced. Like I said, very simple program and exceedingly useful. The other option you do have here is a real-time sync. So if I run this, what it'll do is it will look at a folder, and as something changes in it, it should sync it up in real time. So it should make the changes while you're working. Now, I don't use that, partly because I find that whenever there's any disk accessing going on the computer, it slows everything down and it's just annoying. I mean, loads of things do that. Just telling Adobe to update Premiere, I will get my computer freezing at some points whilst it's updating in the background. It's so annoying. So I don't like running disk operations in the background whilst I'm editing. I'd rather just run it once a day at the end of the day. But if you want to, you can set this thing up. So what you do here is you choose a folder. So let me again choose my test folder. And then you have to put in here a command line to run when something in that changes. So to do that, you've got to come to this thing and you've got to come here and say File and Save as a batch job. And obviously there's some pretty obvious stuff you can do here. Run it minimized, put the computer to sleep afterwards, blah, 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 blah. But you save that as a batch file. And then what you got to do is find that batch file. There it is. Pop it in there. So I drag that and dumped it in there and then click Start. Now this thing just sits here on the desktop, and theoretically when you go and change something over here, so this is my test folder on the remote, it should sync it up automatically on this computer. Gosh, it did. Wasn't that clever? Let's open up the remote again. So again, this is the other computer. And what I want to do is I'm going to take those out. On this computer, wait for a bit, it checks it, then it syncs it. It's not exactly real time, it's kind of happening a few seconds after the event. I haven't really used it because, like I say, I don't like doing stuff in the background. So I just always use that one. Frankly, I just bung that in the bin and always use that one. But it is there as an option. Now, obviously, there are lots of other options. I just came across this one and it worked really well for me. The obvious thing you can do is to RAID hard drives, which you can actually do inside of Windows natively. Either in Windows 10 or Windows 11, you can go to Disk Manager and tell it to mirror two drives. Or you can have external boxes or RAID controllers, which would generally be better performance, and RAID things that way. And I have done that before. I got a bit fed up with them. First thing about using a RAID box is that it's RAIDed using a hardware controller in the box. If your box dies, you need another hardware controller, which is exactly the same, to be able to read the drives. So as long as the box is working, you'll be fine and you'll be all thoroughly backed up on there. Your drives will be mirrored or RAID 5 or any of those kind of things. And everything will be backed up. But if your box goes wrong, then you get a slight problem. It's the same if you do it on the motherboard. A lot of motherboards let you RAID things in the BIOS. But if that motherboard goes wrong and you get a new motherboard, you need the same kind of chipset to be able to RAID it. You know, you can't plug that bunch of drives that you RAIDed on one motherboard into another motherboard and it'll work 100% of the time. Depends on the controller. A lot of them just use the standard controller built into motherboards, and so they will read it, but others don't. And then you won't be able to read the flipping drives. I have an Intel NAS box. We must have bought that in the early 2000s. It's one of the first things we've got. It has 4 drives inside of it. Worked for ages. It still works. It still turns on. Trouble is, I can't read the stuff off it anymore because something's happened with network protocols since then, which means I can't read it and I can't work out how to read it. I've been on Intel websites and stuff, and of course they don't give you much support for something that you bought 20 years ago. So I actually have got a bunch of stuff RAIDed on that drive that I can't get to. And I've tried accessing it in lots of ways, on PCs, on Linux with recovery software, blah, 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 blah. No, I can't get to it. I've had other RAID things where the RAID controller has died, and then, yeah, I can't actually get to the data on the RAID drives anymore. So my preferred option is not to use RAID. Since drives have got bigger and cheaper, just make an exact copy of it. Have one hard drive inside your computer and have an external hard drive and just mirror it. Just actually make sure that what's on one is exactly what's on the other. And this is the simplest way of doing it. Rather than setting up something fancy, something it's doing in real time, at the end of the day, just run this. Whatever's on your main drive, mirrors it on the other drive, never touch the other drive, put it to one side, plug it back in the next time you want to back something up, and run this again, and it'll be mirrored. That's my recommendation for the simplest option, which is more likely to work down the road than some fancy RAID system. I've got a very good Synology RAID box as well, which is still working, but at one point it stopped working completely, and I was then faced with the fact that I could not read anything on those drives. Now that has got about 16 terabytes worth of stuff inside of it. I realized that if the box was faulty, the only way to read those drives was to buy another box that spent another 400 quid and hope that the controllers were compatible. Now, thankfully, I managed to get the box going, but if the box actually does go wrong, I will have to buy another RAID box. Or I'll lose everything on that. And that RAID box isn't nearly as old as the Intel one. They even still sell that kind of model. That's what put me off RAIDs. Plus, I had a couple of systems I set up for people where it was mirroring drives inside of Windows as they used it. And the number of times Windows decided that it was going to completely rebuild the RAID for no reason whatsoever and slow the whole computer down was also very annoying. So again, that put me off as well. Hard drive RAIDs work better than the one that you can do with Windows Disk Manager. But then if the hardware goes wrong, you've still got a problem of how do you read the data. So I reckon this is the best option. And of course, you look at this and think, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. Just whatever you do something. Back your stuff up, please. I get people coming to me with problems, and one of the biggest problems is, help, I've lost all my stuff, my hard drive's gone wrong, what can I do about it? My hard drive started clicking, what can I do about it? Have you got it backed up? Please, please, please back it up. I have somebody say to me, yeah, I know, but I've got loads of drives already, that means I have even more. Yeah, backing stuff up means you're going to have lots more hard drives hanging around. I've got a row of 8 external drives sitting next to me here. I've actually got 5 different computers under the desks here, all of which have got hard drives in. I've got lots of hard drives with lots of stuff on it. And yet that's annoying because then when I want to find something, I've got to find something specific. I've got to stick labels on the external drive saying this is a backup of so-and-so, so I know which is which. And that's slightly annoying. It's not nearly as annoying as your hard drive dies and you suddenly lost a bunch of important stuff and you think, oh my God, how am I getting it back? Anyway, hope that information is useful. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, visit the website www.dvctraining.co.uk for more information, etc, etc. But of course, my final plea is do back your stuff up, please. You'll thank me later. Anyway, I'll see you next time.